A bomb explosion at the home of NCD Metsup Benjamin Turi. Damaged infrastructure posing a threat to the Highlands economy. And opposition leader says the country is in a cash flow crisis.
This is National EMTV News with Hope Imaka.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. This is Thursday's news. A hand grenade was detonated at the residence of NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Benjamin Turi at Tassion Barracks in Port Moresby this morning. This kind of attack is the first on a senior police officer within the confines of a police barracks. Forensic officers from PNGDF, RPNGC and the Australian Federal Police arrived at the scene immediately after the explosion to investigate. Vasinata Yama has this story.
The explosive, a hand grenade, was placed on the footpath of Turi's house. Those who placed the grenade intended for it to cause maximum damage.
Something like an explosive hanging with a rope tied to it. And she called the cousin that tell them to come and see it. And she screamed at them, telling them to go to school, you are late. Once they got on the vehicle to school, she kicked it and walked back to the house. After a few seconds, it blew up. And you can see all the marks here.
Bomb experts from the PNG Defence Force said the grenade was done and placed by someone with knowledge of explosives. They said the explosion could have resulted in many deaths and massive destruction if the hand grenade was new. However, the one used in this attack was old and rusted. Eyewitnesses say the explosive was loud and was heard as far away as Vision City at Waigani.
But it's been done in such a way that it was allowed to remain like that until it's exploded, in a sense that I believe the hand grenade ring has been removed, allowing it to be quite dangerous.
Police Commissioner Gary Baki said the attack may be related to the hardline stand the police is taking to crack down on ill-disciplined officers. He confirmed that many police officers were suspended recently and they are off payroll.
We are of the view that it may be interrelated to the hardline stand that the Metsup and the Divisional Commander are taking in NCD, but they are police officers. This is the role of being a senior police officer. They're doing everything consistent to what is expected of them from me as the Commissioner.
This is the first time an explosive has been used in an attack, but it's the second time of what appears to be a deliberate attempt on the life of a senior officer. Commissioner Baki had also received threats when a bullet was sent to him. Meanwhile, a task force team was formed today to investigate the attack, since the attack took place within the police barracks. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
1 year after the Hanrobado killings, there is a breakthrough in police investigations. A senior police officer was suspended yesterday in relation to the death of the Hanrobado men.
EMTV News confirmed the suspension in an interview with Police Commissioner Gary Baki this afternoon. The senior officer has been suspended from official duty for 21 days, awaiting police investigations. It is understood the former officer in charge of the Criminal Investigations Division, Godwin Duka, was also suspended on the delay in the progress of the Hanrobado killings investigations.
Yes, I can confirm we had a senior officer been suspended yesterday by the Metropolitan Superintendent and the Divisional Commander. This is attributed to the Hanrobado shooting. As you would appreciate, I've just finished with the briefing to get an update on the Hanrobado shooting.
On January 23rd last year, 2 Hanrobado villagers were allegedly shot and killed by police. Despite a commission of inquiry which was set up through the Office of the Chief Secretary, no arrests were made. Following continuous media reports and public criticisms on the capability of police investigators to identify the shooters, a new investigation team was set up to look into the case in October last year.
At the moment, the investigators are going at a pace that is required of them, but I wanted that firearm that has been used to be actually brought in for us to see if we can link the forensic aspects of it together to the shooting. So in as far as I understand, the pressure that's been mounted onto the families, I want us to get a tangible outcome of the crime rather than getting it through, and then at the end of the day you find out you cannot get a conviction of what has been taking place.
The suspension of this senior officer comes as a breakthrough for the families of the two men. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
As the Eastern Highlands reels from the impact of recent flooding, a firm figure of the damage bill has not yet been established, although it is thought it could cost the Eastern Highlands up to 15 million kina for bridge and road repairs. But there is a bigger problem emerging, one that requires national government attention. Crucial sections along the Highlands Highway are collapsing, and this is putting a strain on the entire economy of the Highlands region. Scott White reports from Goroka.
Yesterday, a crucial road section between Kainantu and Yonki collapsed under the onslaught of heavy rains. With 2/3 of the road gone, large vehicles have been prevented from traveling along the Highlands Highway. And it's the large vehicles that need to travel because of the cargo they carry into the upper reaches of the Highlands. This is an emerging crisis that needs national government attention. Since Monday, I've been speaking to various stakeholders, including members of parliament from the Eastern Highlands, and they've said the same thing, that the damage not just to the main highway, but to district infrastructure as well, will cost far more than the districts can afford. Speaking just before midday, the Works Secretary, David Were, said the country needs at least 40 million for repairs. 20 million of that will have to come through NEC approval. There are also landslips along the Kainantu-Yonki section of the highway. While the damage to the Highlands Highway has drawn attention, there are 25,000 people in one local level government area, Dunantina in the Hanganofi district, who are cut off. They've lost 5 important bridges, vital links that connect them to the provincial capital of Goroka. Yesterday, the provincial administrator, who in a tussle for the top post had the court's rule in his favor just days ago, travelled with a team to the Eastern Highlands Morobe border. Below the summit of the Kasam Pass is another section that is crumbling away. If this goes, the Highlands economy will be crippled.
It's very, very steep, and very soon we will lose this section of the road, and if this section of the road goes, Highlands Highway is completely cut off.
If the larger trucks don't pass, stocks of fuel, store food and other essentials will run out. Brian, a truck driver, has been stranded in Goroka since Monday after the collapse of a section of the Bena Bridge. Even if the bridge is fixed by Friday, he won't be able to travel to Yonki because of the road damage. The acting provincial administrator has put together an emergency response team, but the power struggle for the administrator's post is also affecting emergency assessments, especially for infrastructure and the assistance needed by the people in the isolated parts of the province. Scott White, National EMTV News, Goroka.
One of the biggest trucking companies in Papua New Guinea, Mapai Transport, has revealed that they have fallen behind schedule for coffee exports out of Goroka because of the road damage. Mapai is one of the main transporters of coffee out of Goroka. They carry an average of 30 containers every month to Lae. Branch manager Joe Stagman said revenue is being lost because of the downtime.
For one of the biggest trucking companies in the country, the damage to the Bena Bridge and the road collapse in Yonki in the Eastern Highlands is eating into their operations. Since Monday, Mapai has spent approximately 5,000 kina in wages with limited productivity. Their drivers aren't being paid and families are being affected, and above all, they haven't been able to make any revenue.
We've got drivers that are sitting idle.
Branch manager Joe Stegman says the impact is seemingly small, but it has wide-ranging implications for their coffee producer clients.
They can't move their stock. Nothing's coming up the highway to supply, Hagen, Kundiala, those places up that way. And we've got the coffee clients here in Goroka who can't export.
On average, Mapai transports up to 30 containers in a month to Lae. They have to be ready for export at least 1 week in advance, and they're already late.
Mainly our drivers are affected. And in terms of our staff, we're paying for people to just sit idle and just wait for the government to do something about the road and wait for the works to open up the road again. And yeah, it's ridiculous how we have to sit down and things are moving so slowly.
One of their clients is New Guinea Highlands Coffee. They have contractual obligations they have to meet with coffee importers. A late shipment will result in a penalty fee for them. They have at least 60 bags waiting to be transported to Lae.
Mi plasa woka one month in advance lo salim kopi lo mi plagodan lo Lae. Na time also despla roti bagarap now. And mi plama sa rolo waken lo salim kopi ken godan lo Lae.
Goroka is a coffee hub in the Highlands, a lead exporter in the country's coffee industry. Any delay affects revenue, and for the New Guinea Highlands Coffee, this month's exports are expected to fetch up to 1 million kina. If the delays continue, that's how much they will lose in revenue. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Goroka.
More damages to roads and bridges are expected to occur throughout the country due to the current wet weather. Works Secretary David Were said this while commenting on the Highlands highway situation.
Mr. Were said the damages along the Eastern Highlands section of the Highlands Highway comes after one that occurred in the Hela province.
At Magarima, Tango in Magarima. And,
the priority now for the Works Department is to ensure traffic flow.
Important thing is to have the access. Our main priority at this stage is to make sure the highway is open and try and work on the permanent works later when traffic is resumed. So that's the approach we take. In terms of costing, we're looking at for the Highlands Highway along these 3 different sections, we're looking at something in the vicinity of 3-4 million kina.
He said with the continued rains throughout the country, they are expecting more damages.
Partly because a lot of our roads pass through some challenging environment and challenging terrain conditions, and with the downpouring of the heavy rains, it gives rise to these landslides and floods and this kind of natural disasters. So we expect more damages on those, particularly on those vulnerable sections of the highway and vulnerable bridge infrastructure.
Sarah Aupong, National MTV News.
The Works Department is committed in delivering services. The department is working on 5 key areas in its operations, among them building missing road links around the country.
For the last 3 years, the Works Department has been tasked to deliver 5 key areas in its development agenda. The 5 areas include the upgrade and sealing of over 1,000 kilometers of national roads in failed conditions, the maintaining of 4,000 kilometers of roads that are in good condition, the upgrading and sealing of 100 kilometers of urban and town roads, the revitalizing of the Public Transport Board or PTB, and the opening of over 1,500 kilometers of missing road links.
Previous investment levels in road has been in the order of 25 to 35%. As a result, 75% of our network has been in poor condition. Shortfalls in road maintenance funds have built up to something around 3 billion. And with this government coming in, Department of Works has agreed to work on 5 key areas to try and improve on those backlog.
The Works Secretary said the department is working towards achieving some of these key areas. He says road links for the first time have been given priority, and the department is set to open a number of missing links between 2017 and 2018.
So far of the 1,500 kilometers that we have targeted, we've been able to open about 300 kilometers so far.
Funding, on the other hand, has seen an increase in the last 3 years. A significant increase was on maintenance funding, which totaled up to 4.17 billion kina.
The actual funds received to do actual works is around 2.7 billion kina. The difference is due to the supplementary budget in 2014 and revised budget in 2015.
The Secretary also announced the department will be focused on priority roads. Currently, there are over 11,000 kilometers of provincial roads which are still impassable, and the Works Department is working with donor partners and provincial governments to see this vital infrastructure developed. Stanley Over Jr., National MTV News.
Among stories after the break, a suspected robber shot and wounded by police and a mother caught brewing steam in Leh. I'll be back with the details. Welcome back to the news. Leh police shot and wounded one of the armed suspects involved in an armed hold-up of a stolen motor vehicle at Malahang Market yesterday morning. Earlier, 7 criminals armed with bush knives and homemade guns held up the driver of a Toyota Hilux and got away with the vehicle. It was at that time when members of the public alerted police. Police responded quickly and blocked off all escape routes.
A police task force unit confronted the stolen motor vehicle at Beck Road. The driver of the vehicle panicked and crashed into a fence. The suspects escaped on foot. Police chased them and shot one of them. He received bullet wounds to his buttock and lower abdomen. Police removed a long bush knife and a homemade gun from him. The suspect has been taken to Engau General Hospital where he is now receiving treatments for his wounds. He will be formally arrested and charged. Identities of the other 6 suspects are known to police and arrest will be made soon. Leh Metropolitan Commander Anthony Wagambi Jr. praised the public for alerting the police of the armed robbery. It shows that there are more good people out there than bad. The more people report and give information, this will assist police in their efforts to crack down on all illegal activities in the city. Wagambi also praised the police unit for their quick response to the reported crime. Mata Luis, National MTV News, Leh.
A mother of 2 at Leh's Kamkumung was caught making homebrew, commonly known as steam, on the streets. Leh police raided the home of the mother and found her brewing the illegal alcohol in her backyard. Bethany Harman with this report.
Behind the family home, the equipment used to cook illegal liquor, commonly known on the street as steam. The mother of 2, whose identity has been withheld by police, was cooking to sell. She told police that she needed to raise money for school fees and food. Both children are going to school. She and her husband don't have jobs. Police removed the equipment used to cook the steam. 2 old cylinders where the mixture is cooked, a 2-burner gas stove and a old gas cylinder. They also found mixtures in buckets close to where the mother was cooking. Coconut from the backyard was used to make the alcohol. Last year, women next door to her were caught producing and selling the illegal alcohol. Steam is sold on the streets for 20 kina.
That's the finished product.
The mother's production, confiscated this afternoon, could have easily made around 800 kina in one day after sales. Homebrew is the main cause of many rapes, murders and ethnic clashes within Leh City. 4 days ago, the partially decomposed body of a mother was found in Gobadi village in Nabak LLG. She was allegedly raped and killed by men high on steam and marijuana. Now, in this case, for a mother to be producing homebrew in a society that's already struggling with the effects of her actions. Bethany Harriman, National MTV News, Leh.
The much-anticipated Small to Medium Enterprise, or SME Policy and Master Plan, is being launched this evening by the O'Neill Dion government. The policy is expected to support PNG citizen businessmen and women by enabling the growth of local SMEs in the country from 50,000 to 500,000 by 2030. According to the minister responsible, Richard Maru, this will bring back the reserve list and industries for Papua New Guineans and create wealth for the people.
The story of the SME policy, which will be launched at the Sir John Guy Stadium this evening, began in 2010 at the first Indigenous Business Summit in Kokopo, East New Britain Province. Over 800 nationals attended that summit, and back then the idea was to grow the PNG local SMEs from 50,000 to 500,000 by 2030. The government's strategy is to create wealth for its citizens who cannot remain spectators in their own land, while wealth is owned and controlled by others.
At the moment, 2% of companies which are owned by foreigners own and control and manage 90% of our formal sector. In other words, all our wealth is controlled and owned by other people. Papua New Guineans have largely become spectators in our own land.
Mr. Maru said the status quo was unacceptable, and following the Kokopo and Medang SME summits, the government decided to put together an aggressive policy to support the creation of 450,000 new businesses for Papua New Guineans.
And we are going to call on all the finance sector and our people to rally behind our government and donors and everyone to find and support 450,000 Papua New Guineans to go into businesses. Not only to go and start businesses that are new, but we are also going to take over current businesses which are in the what we call the reserve space.
Minister Maru is proud that the current government has taken this bold step to change the course of history to create opportunities and businesses for its citizens. 1,000 copies of the policy will be made available at the launch so that Papua New Guineans will know the government's objectives for SMEs, the policy agenda, implementation plans, and the role of each citizen to take back the economy. Deli Waigeno, National, MTV News.
On a related note, Mainland Holdings Limited, a strong supporter of the SME sector, today donated 50,000 kina to assist in the launch of the SME policy tonight. Eric Harupma with this report.
Mainland Holdings Limited, a parent company of New Guinea Table Beds, major supplier of chicken, eggs and meat throughout Papua New Guinea, has been at the fore of developing the SME sector. An integral part of its outgoing program is the sales of day-old chicks to customers and the harvesting of crocodile eggs in the Sepik Plain. Today saw the presentation of 50,000 kina check by MHL Marketing Manager Eunice Guare to the National Development Bank in Port Moresby.
I'd like to do a check presentation. This is from Mainland Holdings, which is Papua New Guinea's largest agribusiness. And with our agribusiness, we're actually at the forefront of developing the small and medium enterprises in Papua New Guinea. We do this through the supply of our day-old chickens and our stock feed to a lot of rural farmers around Papua New Guinea. This is how the rural people in Papua New Guinea actually earn their living.
This check will go towards the launching of the SME policy, which is underway in Port Moresby. Representing Trade, Commerce and Industry Minister Richard Maru to receive this check was National Development Bank Chairman William Lamour.
Commerce and Industry Minister was the Managing Director of the National Development Bank. And on him coming in and me being his chairman, from 2004 we started thinking about how best we are going to try and empower our people so that they are meaningfully participating in the economic development of this country. That went on for a while, and it started with the initial Indigenous Summit at Kokopo, followed up by another one in Medang, and that was the start of us revising the national policy on SME. I'm very pleased indeed as being one of the original initiators of the revised SME.
Upon receiving the check, Mr. Lamour thanked Mainland Holdings Limited for their continued support towards assisting the SME sector. Eric Arupma, National, MTV News.
And now looking at our finance news. The kina closed 5 points lower at 0.3290 US dollars in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying 0.3215 US dollars, 0.4448 Australian dollars, and 0.2858 euro, and 36.41 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee, cocoa, and copra closed higher, while gold closed the day lower. Palm oil closed lower, while crude oil and copper closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 257 points higher, the ASX closed at 88 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 87 points higher. Ahead in the news, the opposition leaders call for the government to take action on the cash flow crisis. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Opposition leader Don Pollier has called on the government to implement appropriate steps to remedy the cash flow crisis experienced in the country. He made this call after several public servants failed to be paid on time. His shadow cabinet has declared this week that the country's economy is in a cash flow crisis.
According to the opposition, the economy at present is in a management crisis. This has caused serious cash flow problems affecting the country. Don Pollier says PNG shouldn't be facing this crisis had the government managed the economy well.
That the country is facing an economic management crisis at this very time. What makes us say this? We do not believe that we need to elaborate more because the people of this nation, they know it. They know that they've seen this crisis affecting their livelihoods, and even as I speak to you right now, the experiences that the people are facing now is profound, unprecedented to challenges that faced by our people in the past. Under the current government, under the current Prime Minister, the problems that have been induced by his government, and the experiences of economic mismanagement that is having that negative impact on the people is quite profound, and the people of this nation are suffering as a result.
Pollier has warned of this imminent crisis on numerous occasions, but to no avail. His shadow cabinet has now put forward several resolutions which they believe could rescue the economy. They want the government to review the 2016 budget by cutting back on capital expenditure. Also to immediately address the 3 billion kina UBS loan, which the opposition claims is the leading contributing factor to the cash flow problem. And to reconvene Parliament to seek directions to resolve this crisis.
So these liabilities must be gotten rid of, and we've resolved in our shadow cabinet that the 10.1% shares must be sold immediately to cut off this liability so that Papua New Guinea does not suffer this deprivation of cash flow from the sale of PNG LNG gas. And the government needs to immediately resort to the conventional development partners like the World Bank, IMF, ADB for further advice on this matter.
Despite these concerns, Treasury Secretary Dari Vele reassured the nation that all is well with the economy.
Newspapers and on the news tomorrow and tonight that the government is not broke. All right? The government is not broke.
Mickey Cavera, National MTV News.
A 4-year court battle between Mendi MP De Kewanu and rival candidates after the 2012 election has been dismissed by Supreme Court. Chief Justice Sir Salamo Injia dismissed the long election-related court battle based on incompetency. The High Court ruled in favor of Mr. Kewanu.
The Supreme Court has ended down the 4-year court battle between Mendi Open MP De Kewanu and rival candidates during the 2012 general election. Last Wednesday, Sir Salomo dismissed the case based on incompetency. Mr. Kewanu today said the decision is a victory for the people of Mendi.
It's a victory for the people of Mendi who have mandated me, and the process of election was in order, as the legal system we have in this country has given that assurance. My court victory erases all doubts on my election victory in 2012.
After the 2012 general election, Mr. Kewanu's rival filed a case on August 2012 challenging his victory. Last year, on 18th March, the Supreme Court Judge, Justice Colin McHale, dismissed the case because of lack of evidence. But the opposing party filed a review at the Supreme Court, which was struck out last Wednesday.
I knew all along that my election victory was in order, and that did not divert me or distract me and my vision and plans for the people of Mendi.
He said his administration is focusing on infrastructure development. So far, over 80 kilometers of roads have been constructed in the district.
Opening up 80 kilometers of road in the district is an achievement. 80 kilometers of missing links. My concentration was in infrastructure because that's been missing for the last 30, 40 years.
Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
Sogeri National High School in the Central Province is shaping up as a school of excellence. It has introduced the use of information communication technology. The school's administration says the change will boost teachers' and students' performance as well as enhancing knowledge and skills. Fabian Hakelitz reports.
Sogeri National High School is one of Papua New Guinea's schools of excellence, located in the Karakuhiri district of Central Province. To enhance quality teaching and learning, Sogeri has introduced information communication technology. According to Deputy Principal Administration Vivian Nasson, with this platform, students and teachers will excel in quality teaching, learning and research.
We have an interactive board, and the school had to purchase this so that we would like to cut down on the use of paper, save time, save our machines for running our test papers and all that. We would like to use the interactive board so that it can help us in that area. It's a very new.
Teachers will be the driving force behind this program and have received training for the delivery of quality outcomes of academic excellence.
It's a very new technology. Our teachers have already done one session of training on how to use this interactive board, and we hope after 1 or 2 more sessions they should.
This platform also aims to improve communication and teach students and teachers to become more responsible in the using of technology. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Morobe's Family and Sexual Violence Action Committee will conduct awareness programs on gender-based violence at lay secondary schools this year. 5 secondary schools within lay will be visited by a team of advocates from Morobe Community Development Office. The 8-month program will see the Community Development Office working alongside provincial education and guidance offices. It is hoped that GBV community intervention conducted in schools will utilize students as channels of broadening information and prevention measures in communities. The awareness covers GBV presentations aimed at inspiring students to realize possible issues and how it affects people's lives. Morobe records at least 5 family and sexual violence cases per day. The school advocacy program is expected to commence in mid-March. Staff of MTV today gathered in support of the Port Moresby General Hospital Corporate Blood Drive for 2016. About 20 staff volunteered to donate valuable blood to save a life. It was also a worthy reminder for blood donors to maintain a balanced and healthy diet.
With the 2016 Corporate Blood Drive now in full swing, a team from the blood bank at Port Moresby General Hospital visited the MTV office to collect blood from generous staff. A fair number of MTV staff showed up in the company boardroom to participate.
With the blood collection, we do this every day with the companies and schools. Lately, we've been targeting companies, corporate companies, and There's been it's been a good response from different organizations.
So far, the month of January has seen a record number of blood donations for the corporate mobile blood drive. The initiative is grateful for the support of corporate companies like EMTV.
I care and I want to save a life. I'm happy I did, because I'm sure even if it's not someone I know, it will help someone that needs it.
No matter how much blood is collected, the blood bank says it can always use more. Interested organizations can register online at corporateblouddrive.com or by visiting the Corporate Blood Drive Facebook page. Deli Waigeno, National, EMTV News.
Trukai Sports is next. Stay tuned for the details.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Papua New Guinean weightlifters will have a shot at competing at this year's Olympic Games in Rio, but the country can only qualify one male and one female lifter at the Games. Over the next few months, lifters will compete in various regional tournaments to secure a spot at Rio.
PNG is known for producing some of the finest weightlifters in the region. The 2014 Glasgow Commonwealth Games saw local heroes Stephen Curry and Dick Atoa bag a gold medal each, elevating the profile of PNG weightlifting to the rest of the world. With the Rio Olympic Games just months away, PNG weightlifting is hoping to qualify lifters to the Games. Qualification to the Olympic Games will depend on how the PNG weightlifting teams perform during the Oceania Weightlifting Championships. The men's team must finish in the top 5 and the women's team must finish in the top 4 in order to qualify a male and female lifter to the Games. After an impressive performance during the Pacific Games last year, General Secretary of the Oceania Weightlifting Federation, Paul Coffer, says PNG has good talented young lifters who are yet to make their mark in weightlifting. From March to June, there are 4 major competitions: the Australian Open Invitational, Oceania Championships, the Commonwealth Championships, and the Olympic Games, and also an elite training camp. Dion Kombang, National, EMTV Sports.
The PNG Rugby Football Union has been identified as the biggest in the Pacific, an achievement for a Tier 3 union under World Rugby. With the participation of 40,000 Papua New Guineans contributing to this ranking, the introduction of a Rugby Championship and National 7 Series will surely boost the ranking of the union and assist with the further development of the code in country and in region.
Succeeding Rugby Union because it's got its act together.
The Sports Ministry has in recent times called on the PNG Rugby Football Union to look to the PNG Rugby Football League in terms of development pathways to improve the status of the code in the country and have better structures in place. The introduction of this 7 Series and Rugby Championship will be played in each of the 4 regions. The concept similar to that of previous years with the Super Fours format. This will allow for unions around the country to select their best players to play in a semi-professional competition, allowing for the standard to improve, something that hasn't been evident in recent years. It will also provide an avenue for a selection base into the national Pukpuk side, as well as another platform to enhance gender equality, placing emphasis on women's rugby. The official announcement of tournament dates and provincial teams will be made known following the announcement of a partnership with the SB Export brand this evening. Lorraine Genia, National, EMTV Sports.
Super Rugby returns next week with a bigger and better season after the inclusion of 3 new teams and the expansion of the competition to unions outside of Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. This year's season will see a team from Japan and Argentina join, while South Africa's Southern Kings make their comeback after a 2-year absence.
Sanctioned under SANZA, South Africa, New Zealand and Australian Rugby, Super Rugby is the only tournament in the world played across so many different time zones. Now, with the extension of the competition to Japan and Argentina, the level of rugby is set to improve within the Southern Hemisphere. New Zealand's Crusaders, Chiefs and Blues will feature alongside reigning champions from 2015, the Highlanders, with Australia registering 5 teams, and South Africa with the regulars, Cheetahs, Stormers, Lions, Bulls and the Sharks. Draws have been announced with round 1 matches kicking off on Friday the 26th of February. Blues take on the Highlanders at Eden Park in Auckland, while the Brumbies take on the Hurricanes at GOI Stadium, Canberra, and the 2 debutants having home games to begin their campaign in their first ever Super Rugby season. Lorraine Genya, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To kickboxing, Bostoni Elo has gone on to greater heights, spreading awareness on gender-based violence through sports. Despite the limited resources available, the president of Hela Boxing hopes that his association can make it big on the international stage.
Elo has been running his own training and conducting classes for youths in the settlements. His main aim is to keep youths off the street and to have a disciplined life.
National capital district is running just a family section of domestic violence or forms of violence, any forms of violence. Plus, I give my awareness around NCDC. Plus, I advocate most of my all plus total health, social issues. Medications.
Without financial support, Elo has gone on to lead his association, the Hela Bed of Paradise, to take part in the kickboxing tournaments around the country. The previous PNG Games, Elo led his team, representing NCDC, winning most of the medals during the Games. Elo has been running the association for the past 3 years, getting youths involved in the sport of kickboxing and spreading the word of violence. The abuse of alcohol and marijuana is what they do apart from training. Elijah Lavet, National EMTV Sports.
With sports receiving much more attention than it has in previous years, Pro Vice-Chancellor of the University of Papua New Guinea, Professor Albert Melam, has called on the Sports Ministry to consider a partnership to venture into developing the medicine aspect of the sports in the country. Professor Melam challenged the Sports Minister, Justin Chichenko, to look into a sports medicine course at the University of Papua New Guinea so the nation doesn't only provide training services to athletes within the region, but also specialists in the field of sports science.
At the handover ceremony of the Pacific Games Village to the University of Papua New Guinea, Pro Vice-Chancellor Professor Albert Melam encouraged a partnership between the Institute and the Games Authority.
To have 2 blocks made available to the Games Authority so that we also, as a university partner with the Games Authority, to build sporting excellence in this country.
With the recent success PNG had at the Pacific Games, it was evident that the country has the potential to excel in sports. Professor Melam urged the government to include a sports medicine course at the institution as the country looks to make Port Moresby the sporting hub of the region.
I want to leave you with this thought to encourage government to look at the University of Papua New Guinea as a university in which we should also mount a program in sports medicine so that it can support the initiative of the government in terms of the many sporting events that will take place in this country in the future.
With the current world-class facilities available here in the nation's capital, the inclusion of sports medicine into the university will see the country not only provide training services to athletes, but also in sports science as well. Dion Kombang, National EMTV Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather details for the next 24 hours when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Your weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, some showers for all centres. In the Mamasa region, some showers for all centres. In the New Guinea Islands, rain showers for all centres. And in the Highlands region, some showers for all centres. Small ships forecast for the next 24 hours. Strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of Milne Bay Islands, also Finschhafen through Vitis Strait, Siasi Islands to Long Island, to Medang, to Bogia, to Wewak, to Aitape, to Vanimo, including New Guinea Islands. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru, to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, to Samurai Island, seas 1.5 to 2 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, and with waters of Medang to Bogia, to Wewak, to Aitape, to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, seas 2.0 to 3.0 meters. Waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitis Strait, Siasi Islands, to Long Island, and with waters of New Island to east and west New Britain to Bougainville, seas 2.5 to 3.5 meters. And waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas 2.0 to 2.5 meters. Looking at ocean forecast for PNG areas, in the Coral Sea, seas rather rough with northwest to southwest winds at 20 to 34 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas rather rough with southwest to northwest winds at 20 to 25 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas moderate to rather rough with northwest winds at 20 to 34 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas moderate to rough with northeast to northwest winds at 20 to 34 knots. Before we go, tonight's headlines again. Police investigate a bomb explosion at the home of NCD Metropolitan Turi. Damage bill of the Highlands Highway expected to cost the government 15 million kina, and opposition leader says the country is in a cash flow crisis. That ends National EMTV News. I'm Hope Imaka. Pleasant viewing. Good night.